Rahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to our final interview for the morning. It is with Chairperson of the Muslim Personal Law Network South Africa, and that is Ayesha Royker, to discuss a very, very important issue with us. I'm a bit confused as far as this is concerned, but alhamdulillah, she will put the record straight. And let's hear what exactly is going regarding the Marriage Act. So the Concourt has ruled that some provisions of the Marriage Act are unconstitutional. We're going to speak to Ayesha Royker and hear how this ruling impacts on the Muslim Marriages Bill or Act. Ayesha, assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the program.
Walaikum salam, Julie, and thank you for having me this morning.
I'm so glad you're here because I'm very confused. I remember about 6 weeks ago, 2 months ago, we were talking about the Muslim Marriages Act finally being recognized. What is happening here with the Concourt declaring certain parts of the Marriage Act unconstitutional? Is this marriages right across the board in South Africa or particularly to Muslim marriages?
So, the Constitutional Court judgment that you're referring to, it's actually the end of the Women's Legal Centre's application to which started at the High Court, went on appeal, and then obviously now has gone to Constitutional Court for confirmation. So, certain sections of the Marriage and the Divorce Act has been found to be unconstitutional in that it doesn't provide protection for the rights of Muslim women and children who are married in terms of Islamic law or by nikah. So that's basically what this Constitutional Court judgment was about, confirming
my understanding, the last time we spoke with the Muslim Personal Law Network, I'm more than certain I did speak to someone from the organization, and I kind of assumed that everything was done and dusted because these are the very issues that you guys have been grappling with for a very, very long time. So it still leaves us out in the cold, so to speak.
No, we have this judgment has given us some interim relief. But firstly, the issue that women and children, what women found was that each time we needed to litigate, we needed to confirm that our marriage was valid. So, for starters, now the Constitutional Court has deemed that Muslim marriages must be recognized as valid marriages, and that's one step up for us because each time there was a matter that needed to be confirmed. So Muslim marriages are now seen as valid marriages. The sections of current legislation which do not include parties married in terms of Muslim law have now been declared as invalid and unconstitutional, and the court has directed that government or parliament needs to either amend current legislation or pass new legislation to include spouses to a Muslim marriage.
How long is that process going to take? And in the interim, and I know that obviously the Muslim Personal Law Network has been working many, many years on this issue. So it kind of leads me to believe that it's still a lengthy, road ahead for you guys and the rest of us Muslim women. In the meantime, Ayesha, how do I protect myself? I am married by Muslim law. I'm not married, in a court of law, in a civil court. So how do I protect myself? What ought I be doing? Do I draw up a contract of sorts?
So the Parliament has 24 months in which to amend legislation or pass new legislation. This process has started, when the High Court. It started a couple of years ago, but they have now, from the Constitutional Court date of order, they have 24 months in which to pass this new legislation. So the Department of Justice has a process going, Department of Home Affairs has a process going, and when we would encourage people when you are asked for inputs to give your input to the process, to be a part of the process. But in the interim, how can you protect yourself? So the Constitutional Court, the judgment is that Muslim marriages, any marriage which subsisted or which was in existence on the 15th of December 2014, um, or which had been dissolved, or there was a talaq issued, but litigation or had not yet been finalized, those parties may approach the court for dissolution of the marriage in terms of the Divorce Act. So you can approach the court if you are currently married and you are going through a divorce or a talaq, or if you were married at 15th of December 2014, you can institute divorce proceedings under the Divorce Act. Marriages are, however, deemed to be out of community of property. So what's yours is yours, what's his is his, unless there is an agreement to the contrary. So if you have an antenuptial contract, or if you have any other form of contract between the parties which would stipulate how you intend having your marriage conducted, then that would be, take priority. If there isn't, then it's unfortunately out of community of property. However, part of the interim relief is that you can request for a redistribution of assets, and the court would need to look at what is a fair and equitable redistribution. Also, very importantly, we know that there are many marriages, polygynous marriages, so the court would need to look at the effect of the redistribution of assets, to all parties, first wives and subsequent wives, and the effect that a redistribution of assets would have on everybody concerned.
Okay, so you're talking 2014 onwards. What about pre-2014? How are those marriages protected in this similar situation?
So unfortunately, when it comes to Muslim marriages, the issue of retrospectivity, we would have liked for this to have gone, far back. Unfortunately, the court was, only granted us retrospectivity until the 15th of December 2014. So any marriage that had terminated before that date, unfortunately, you would not be able to institute, my understanding is you would not be able to institute any divorce proceedings under the Divorce Act, but only if your marriage was still, subsisting at 2014 and up to now.
In the meantime, then this does take me back to my previous question, which you have answered almost 90%. Would you then advise those women in those marriages pre-2014 that they, even at this late stage in the year 2022 and going forward, that if you were married pre-2014, that cover yourself with a contract? Will that hold up? You also alluded to community of property and anti-nuptial. I've noticed a lot of young people these days seem to go for the anti-nuptial option, simply because more and more young people, women especially, are educated, they're employed, they're earning their own finances. Do you believe, and I know it's a personal choice, but do you believe that's the right route to be going?
So when it comes to an antenuptial contract, there's two ways that you can either have it with accrual or without accrual. So if you have an antenuptial contract with accrual, it would mean that at the beginning of your marriage, whatever you owned would be yours, and whatever he owned would be his. But whatever you accumulate during the subsistence of your marriage, that would be shared 50-50. So that's out of community of property with accrual. So that's an option that you would have, or out of community of property without accrual. It's straightforward. What's yours is yours, what's his is his. And in that case, you need to either, if you are purchasing property, register it in both of your names, even if you are married out of community of property, because that would be a way of securing it. But that would, a lot of people are choosing that option. From my experience, the religious authorities recommend out of community without accrual, and that's, but it really is your choice. What is fair, just, equitable would be, probably out of community with accrual, so that you share in the accumulation of assets during the subsistence. In community of property, you are liable, you share everything 50-50, assets and liabilities. So just depending on your circumstances, you might rather prefer out of community with accrual.
What more do we need to know as far as this current ruling is concerned? And we do know that there's possibly a 24-month wait ahead of us for us as Muslim women and the Muslim community to get the good news, to be told that our marriages are now completely recognized and there aren't any stumbling blocks the way ahead. So, what more do we need to know, and how well prepared ought we be?
So our marriages are recognized. It's just now the framework that will govern our marriages, so that you would know, upon dissolution of the marriage, what your rights are and what you would be entitled to. Um, and then how ready should we be? Keep your ears to the ground and follow the conversation, be part of it. Reach out to the network if you would like us to speak to your in your community. A lot of masjids have the women's forums. If you would like a little bit more in-depth explanation of the Constitutional Court judgment and what your rights are, then we certainly are there and available at your request. So yeah, talk about
And
it.
you
Know
and
your
you are confident that this is the right way, this is the right direction we're moving in. So I just need a yes or no answer, and then I have one final question to you. This is a true case, real life case scenario. So your answer: are we in the right direction? Are we on the right path?
Yes, because it's fair, just, and equitable.
Okay, I just met with someone recently. She was the second wife, married to her late husband for about 10 years. The first wife had passed away. She then married her husband about 3 years after the passing of the first wife. When she married him, they drew up a contract, and obviously she asked him to share the information with his adult children, which he didn't. He has subsequently passed away, and those children are contesting that contract, number one. Number two, she is in a house that the husband has bought, but he didn't include anything about the house in the contract, maybe to suggest that the second wife can remain on in the house till she chooses to leave or till she passes away. The children, the adult children, now want to evict her. What is there any recourse for this
Sure.
woman?
How were they married? Muslim rights.
Muslim rights. As I've
Muslim
indicated,
rights.
there was a
Yeah.
contract and vowing Muslim rights, yes.
So, I mean, really, the terms of the contract, if it has been executed and if there's witnesses to it, I'm sure the court would look at the terms, and this would be contract, a law of contract. So, enforcement of a contract and confirming that that contract is in fact binding. So, yeah, she would probably have to, approach the court for relief, and take it from there. Yeah. The courts are
And
always there. That is for us. That
right.
is why it's so important for us to have this, because we can approach the court, even if there wasn't this legislation, even if there wasn't this judgment by the Constitutional Court. Nothing stops us. Nothing prevents us from approaching the court for relief.
Okay,
And then the court.
may I refer her to you, please, to give her, deeper insight into the matter? When
Yeah.
we talk about these contracts to cover us for perhaps the next 24 months, how important is it that it is signed off by a commission of oaths? Or is, one or two witnesses good enough?
You're putting me on the spot here with all my contract law knowledge. So if a contract is executed, if there's witnesses, both parties, it doesn't necessarily, like an antenuptial contract needs to be signed in front of a notary. So and it needs to be registered at the deeds office, so that, that's with regard to
Now
antenuptial
I'm
contracts.
talking,
You can still,
I'm talking about a contract between husband and wife, suggesting,
yes.
okay, or the previous case that I had suggested to you,
Yeah.
should that have been signed off by a commission of oaths?
A commissioner of oaths.
Would it have given it more legitimacy?
No, because I don't think that is a requirement for a valid contract. So you need to look at the requirements for a valid contract. A
Okay,
commissioner of oaths is if an affidavit. So if you are
okay,
taking an oath, so you would need a commissioner. But contracts, you need to have the party sign and witnesses sign. So that would be an inter parte agreement, not necessarily something that needed to be registered at the deeds office. But an
Okay.
antenuptial contract, yes, needs to be done in front of a notary and registered at the deeds office within 90 days of being executed at the notary.
How valid would the contract that I'm alluding to, how valid is it and how much weight does it have? Can I go to court with something like that? And then in terms of litigation, if I litigate regarding this matter, is it going to cost me lots of money?
Litigation, it is costly. For me to say how successful are you going to be, I would obviously need to look at the terms of the contract and see what that. So I wouldn't really need to say yes, you're going to be successful, but you could definitely take it to court, and it would be up to the court to confirm that the contract can be upheld. Time, court, the whole process, the wheels of the judiciary turn so slowly. So it's not necessarily that you would be able to resolve this within a month or two. You would need to launch applications. It is a costly, lengthy process, but we are here to assist you in any way. The Impel Network has attorneys in various fields of expertise: family law, fiduciary, property. We have counselors, academics. So we really have a vast, sea of experience and expertise in our network. So really, if there is anybody that needs assistance in whichever field, law, then we are there to assist.
A different matter that is brewing as well, of which I've had a discussion as well, and I am running over time here, but I'm sure that I will be given leeway because it's a very, very important matter. We know that we need to have wills according to Sharia. And I had a discussion with a young man over the weekend. I think it was wills, were he was at mosque on Friday, and the discussion was around wills and Muslim people making sure that they have proper wills in place. And the one thing that the Maulana had raised is that lots of young people these days are not including their relatives. As being beneficiaries of the wills, like brothers, aunts, uncles, nieces, and nephews. The trend seems to be, and it according to Maulana, that it's going against the ruling of Sharia. The trend seems to be it's husband and wife and their immediate biological children. Have you guys come across such cases, and what are the type of rulings or advice do you give to these people? Because Maulana was saying that that goes according to Sharia. If you don't leave part of your inheritance to your brothers, your sisters, your nephews, your nieces, your uncles, your grandparents, etc.
So I'm not a wills expert. Rumana from the MPL Network, she is, would be the perfect person to speak to regarding inheritance. But as legal practitioners, we do advise our clients to execute Sharia compliant wills. At the end of the day, it really is up to them how they, it is your will, what you want to, how you want to distribute your wealth at the end of the day. But as legal practitioners, as Islamic legal practitioners, we encourage our Muslim clients to execute the will, but we can't force anybody to do anything.
Absolutely. Okay, so it's between you, your conscience, and the Almighty.
And as a
Well,
legal practitioner, we clear our conscience and we say, you know,
absolutely, absolutely wonderful talking to you. I hope we can have a further discussion once the ruling does
inshallah.
come out. Was lovely talking to you. Go
Thank you
well.
so much for having me, Julie.
Keep us in your duas, and salamu alaikum to you.
Wa alaikum salam.
10:15 exactly, way over time, but thank you for being with me. The ladies of mid morning are standing by. That, of course, is Maria Makwanda and the new person that's going to be standing in for her. I do apologize. I can't remember the sister's name, but I also want to remind you that next up is Jews 4 and 5. by Sheikh Sudais. Thank you so much for your company today. Till Monday morning at the same time, please stay safe and have a wonderful rest of the week. 16 after 10. Salaam alaikum to you and Khudafiz from me, Julie Ali.